Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. And, man, we're excited about our guest today. Football season is here. Training camps are underway. The preseason games are right around the corner. And before you know it, the football season will fly by. A guy who knows plenty about football and other things as well. Ryan Leaf is with me today. Ryan, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
I'm lovely, man. It's awesome to see you. You're right. Football season is here. I'm excited for it, both college and especially the NFL.
And it just got announced. We were just talking about this a little bit off the air, that you're the new lead analyst for the Pac-12 for the USA Network. That's exciting news. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really exciting news. We're really grateful here in the Leaf household. Opportunity to build the brand of the new Pac-12.
Yeah.
And to be asked to be the lead analyst, to kind of be the face of that network. I'm really excited about it. It's something we've been working really hard for over the last decade, as you know, and it's they've invested a lot in me, and I plan on making them really proud.
You've been through a lot. I mean, so many people know your story. What's that like? You know, because there's a lot of people, and I'll say it, and I've talked about it publicly too, but I'm not your level of fame. You know, I'm a gambling addict, right? You know, so I don't gamble anymore. But most people that have addiction problems are not in the public spotlight like you are. And so what's that been like for people to see everything that's gone on in your life, the good and the bad, and have to live that in the public?
I feel like it's made it easier simply because I kind of chose to build my house out of glass, I guess. So everybody knows all the stuff, you know. It's like B-Rabbit from the end of 8 Mile, you know. He just lays it all out there for everybody to see and hear, and it removes the power because, you know, there isn't anything that anybody can say about me that, you know, hasn't been told. So I like it that way. It's become a little more difficult having kids now, you know, and my wife and stuff like that. Just, you know, knowing that, you know, other kids can be brutal and, you know, kind of knowing where we live and things like that with some of the people out there and stuff like that. So that's been a little different, but, you know, I got to be really grateful for the fact that I think I was in the public eye. I was forced to address the things I needed to address if I wanted to continue to live a life that was productive and purposeful. And so, I'm really grateful for the way it's all played out and what we've done over the last, 12 years.
And I think you've really helped a lot of people, and I give you major kudos to that, because for so long, there was a stigma to an athlete admitting an addiction, admitting, anything that could be looked at as a weakness, which is ridiculous, but that was just part of the deal. And I think you've kind of led the way here, and now we're starting to see more and more. I know Kevin Love did, and there's been some other guys who have talked about addiction, who have talked about mental illness. These are real things that guys deal with as much as women do. And yet, for some reason, there's a stigma, and I think it's definitely a lot less. But when guys like you and other athletes talk about these things, I think it makes it so much easier for the regular guy on the street to say, well, if my favorite athlete has this addiction, has this disease, it's okay for me to admit I have it too. And I think it's really helped a lot of people.
I hope so. I don't think the stigma has changed much. I think that we look at people who are open and honest and transparent. We go, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to the real person, they still are so fearful that someone may know that they need help. That is scarier than actually getting the help that they need. And so, continue to shine a light on it, raise awareness around it. Stigma is the last hurdle that we ultimately have to get over to make people believe and understand that it's okay. Mental illness and substance use disorders is a disease, right?
Yes.
It's a brain disease.
Yes.
And it's just like any kind of other disease, whether it's cancer or diabetes, that if treated appropriately, you can go into remission and have the life of your dreams, right? And if more people understood that, and that's just because we were taught it. We just were taught it in the 80s. Just say no to drugs, and when it comes to the mental health aspect of things, it's been seen as something that is bad.
Yeah.
It's a negative rather than a thing that's just addressed as a disease. And so, yeah, with science on our side, we just keep hammering at it,
Yeah.
talking about it, and hopefully we'll see change, before my day comes.
I'm with you. Hopefully, too. We'll get into the lighter side of things here with football, especially with the Browns. I want to get some thoughts from you, but I do want to start with college football. And what's your feeling on the general state of college football at the moment?
Well, I think it's what everybody sees it as, and it's just this giant, kind of poop sandwich of a world, because the NCAA screwed this all up, right? Like
Yes.
NIL was something that needed to be addressed. There was too much money being made, but what happened and what came from it is not NIL, right? Name, image, and likeness is one thing. Name, image, and likeness is you going to the bookstore on campus and seeing your jersey being sold,
Yeah.
and you not getting a return on that.
Right.
Like when I was playing and I saw that happen, I just thought it was really cool that my jersey was being sold in the bookstore. I really didn't think about whether or not I should be getting paid for it. But the amount of money that's being generated now, it definitely is, ticket sales for the players that are playing and stuff like that. So that's understandable. But what happened to the NCAA when the Kavanaugh ruling came down? The NCAA just was so angry and upset that they did not have their amateur status players to cull from anymore. They just, stopped the committee. There was a committee actually in place to regulate NIL and transfer situations, and they just sent it by. They said they want the Wild Wild West, they can have the Wild Wild West, and that's what it is. And it's pay for play now. So whoever can come up with the biggest collective, the biggest amount of money, who write the biggest checks, you're going to get the best players. It doesn't mean you're always going to win. Listen, Indiana did not have the biggest checkbook last year.
That's true.
What they did have is a great coach who could bring together mercenaries. That's what this has become. Like, it's just a bunch of mercenaries. What great coaches can bring together guys for the first time in a season with a bunch of free agents and make it work. Lane Kiffin's really good at that. Clearly, you see Kurt Cignetti being able to do that as well, right? You have to find the right coach that can do those things, maybe in a one-season spurt, and that's the difference right now. So I think what this is leading to, and when the next TV revenue or media rights deal is going to be up with the college football playoff, I think you're going to finally see it break free, and see a national collegiate football league. And a lot of the teams that can't afford to play in that national collegiate football league will have to come scrambling back to their old conferences. And that's what's so cool about the Pac-12 and me to be able to be the analyst for the Pac-12 conference and seeing the new brand is that Washington State and Oregon State held on to that brand, right? It's going to still exist. There are going to be teams that are going to be coming back to the fold here when that media rights deal gets done and a national collegiate football league becomes a reality, and they're not in it. And so I'm proud of the two schools that one of them being my alma mater that stood tall when they got left behind and have tried to build something strong in its absence.
Yeah, and I think you're dead on. The NCAA screwed this whole thing up. They resisted for too long, and then it just went from one extreme to the other. It was such a stupid mistake. But anyway, let's switch gears to the NFL because I'm curious, as someone who's not embedded in Cleveland like I am and our fans are. What do you think of, to me, it's just crazy that the Browns would play Deshaun Watson. I mean, he just hasn't been good for 6 years. And I don't know how good Shedeur Sanders is as an NFL quarterback. I know he was good in college. I thought he was pretty bad last year, but he was in an impossible spot with no talent around him. But he's young. I want to see what he is. I want to find out. Am I crazy as someone who played? Do you understand why they might go with Watson, or do you think it's crazy also?
Well, as a player who has been in the league and seen that process play out, that doesn't surprise me. But listen, Todd Monken wants to win.
Yes.
And Todd's really good. I've covered him for a long time, his time at Georgia and then his time in the NFL. I've covered a bunch of his games with the Ravens. I mean, he turned Lamar Jackson into an absolute monster in this league. And so I feel like he could have a real quarterback whisperer touch with Deshaun Watson. I really do. And we've known what Deshaun can do. We saw it in Houston. We just haven't seen it forever. Injuries have plagued him. All the off the field stuff has just plagued him and made things so difficult. The genius of Todd Monken maybe could do something to help him out. If all things are equal, which I don't think they are. I think that what you're seeing in training camp is that Deshaun Watson is far and away the better quarterback on that roster. And so if I'm Todd Monken, I want him to be the starter because I want to win football games. If I want to try and experiment out, you better have a ironclad commitment from the ownership that says wins and losses are not a variable this year that you have to worry about. We are trying to find out if we need to go get a quarterback with all those first-round picks a year from now, or if Shedeur can be the guy. I don't have any faith in ownership giving me that ironclad commitment and then not firing me after one season. When a big name comes up and now they can go get a quarterback with a big name. So if I'm Todd Monken, I want to start the guy that's going to win me football games. And if that's Deshaun Watson, then it has to be Deshaun Watson. Plain and simple. You cannot, with a job that has been so secular in Cleveland, that you go out and have a bad year. I don't care. They'll can you immediately and look for something better and big. And this is Todd Monken's first chance at being a head coach in this league, which I think he can be a really good one. And so that's why that's maybe a pragmatist mindset when you look at this. But I know what Todd Monken can do. And unfortunately, systemically, it's just been the Cleveland Browns. What has been the lone variable for over the last 2 decades that's been the problem. And it's been the ownership, and it's been the foundation of this football team. And so I don't know really where you go from there. It's a difficult and tough road to travel if you're a Cleveland Browns fan.
And the reality is they'll probably both play, because the odds of Deshaun Watson, even if he does start, getting through a whole season is probably slim. In the end, do you believe Shedeur Sanders has the ability to be a legitimate starter in the league, or do you think they're just going to end up drafting a quarterback next year?
Well, I think any quarterback that gets drafted into the NFL has the ability to be a starting quarterback in this league. But listen, I think everybody's come to the conclusion that whatever was going on heading into that draft was a bunch of hype around things. Most of the scouts and general managers I spoke to, the highest grade I saw for him was a 5th-round grade, or a 3rd-round grade, sorry. Okay. So him being drafted in the 5th round wasn't a huge surprise, because once they got to the 3rd, no one had drafted him. I think it was a lot of fear in there of being the first to do it. So he didn't have a 1st-round grade or a 2nd-round grade in my eyes. So it doesn't surprise me at all that this is a development process. Like, he's got the DNA to be great. He's got great coaching. It seemingly feels like he's a guy that works really hard at his craft, And so if that's the case, I think he can be a starter in this league. Tom Brady was drafted 6th in the 6th round, right? We played them in the Rose Bowl. He couldn't even get on the field, and he's the greatest quarterback to ever play. So, that there's always that ability. Unfortunately, he plays for the Browns.
Yes,
and that's. I know this is an Ohio show, but I mean, you all have to take a really good hard look in the mirror. Like, this is the reality of this. Like, systemically, this organization has just absolutely, made everything worse. And so, I know each year there's a rebirth and people are excited with new coaches and new quarterbacks and all the things that come into it. That's what makes the NFL great. That's why everybody's so excited, and why the Seattle Seahawks are kind of a second thought right now. Yeah, they won the Super Bowl last year, but this is our year. You know?
Right.
And that's really cool about the NFL, because anybody can win it seems like that year. So people are excited that Cleveland could maybe do something that no one expects. I think there's a real problem within that foundation of that organization. And unless something changes there, I don't think anything changes necessarily on the wins and loss column, where you're fighting for a championship at some point.
Yeah, I wish I could disagree with you, but I obviously don't. I mean, ownership here is terrible. They throw money at problems. They meddle, and when the owner meddles, it never works out. It's never good. So yeah, I mein, it's frustrating. I do think they have some nice young talent at other positions.
So do I.
And so let's start with that, including in fact, I know it's not Washington State, but your rival Washington. Denzel Boston, the wide receiver from Washington, has made a pretty impressive impression, for whatever that's worth, in OTAs and the first day of training camp so far. I don't know how much you watched him in college, but him and KC Concepcion from Texas A&M. It's the first time in a while that the Browns have spent high draft capital on not only one but two wide receivers. What do you think of these two guys?
I think they're both great. Right? They're young, they're athletic, they have the ability to spread the field as well as stretch it with their speed. I don't like talking well about Washington Huskies. Don't get me wrong, but he was a special player. He made it a real problem against my Cougars in the Apple Cup a year ago. So those are huge. Those are huge benefits to this football team. Todd Monken's going to have an idea. I mean, Todd Monken may have a better receiving core in Cleveland than he may ever had collectively in Baltimore, to tell you the truth.
Possible,
from a talent standpoint of things. So. I think that benefits. It's just a matter of whether the quarterback has time to throw, right? How is the offensive line going to protect? Monken does a tremendous job with protections. He did a really great job with Lamar Jackson and getting that ball out of his hand quickly, but not just quickly down the field as well, right. Which made them really exciting, and so I think any kind of talent you can add to the mix with Todd Monken at the helm, that's a good thing. Defensively, they got to be able to be up to the task. This division is absolutely brutal. Cincinnati is going to have a lot to offer, as Pittsburgh and Baltimore will as too, with two new head coaches. I mean, the only stable factor in this division is Zach Taylor coming back, right? All three other situations you have new coaches, something that you never thought you would see or hear when it comes to the Ravens and the Steelers, but here we are. And so you don't quite know what you're going to get from those two teams. You know what you're going to get in Cincinnati, and you think you have an idea what you're going to get in Cleveland just because of what it's looked like in the past years. Hopefully Todd Monken can surprise a lot of people, and I think he will.
Speaking of good young players, I want to go back to last year's draft and Carson Schlesinger. I'll be honest, when the Browns drafted him, I didn't really know much about him. We hadn't been talking about him at all leading up to the draft, but this guy was unbelievable. One of the most impressive linebackers I've ever seen as a rookie, especially in this era where linebackers are kind of a different position than they were when I was a kid, when you were a kid. But he's tremendous.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot, especially at the linebacker position, because you just take the next best player. When you get to that place in the second round, you've exhausted kind of what your script looks like. And now you have the best players available when you're a general manager. And I think that was a situation in which I don't think a lot of people in Cleveland had heard about him, but he was on the list. And this is where they were at. And they made the decision to take the next best player, a linebacker they felt that could be impactful. And he was immediately. He was great from sideline to sideline, but he was also really good at making calls for the defense there on the defensive side of the field. And one of the hardest things to do in this day and age with all the limitations in college, with the lack of practices, with the CBA and the lack of practices, is tackling, getting guys on the ground, right? And when you have the ability to be a tackling machine, when you get a hold of somebody, you get them to the ground, that's a huge difference maker in terms of how much playing time you're going to get and how effective you're going to be. And he was a tackling machine. And that's what you want to see out of players at that position, who a lot of times are going to go unblocked and have to just fly to a player on the perimeter or a running back in the hole, and you got to make the tackle.
Ryan, last thing I wanted to hit on. Every year, everybody's like, well, next year is the quarterback draft. Next year. Everybody's, obviously Arch Manning is going to get the most talk. Dante Moore from Oregon, of course. Who do you think right now is the best quarterback heading into this college season? And is there a guy kind of under the radar that nobody's talking about that you've got your eye on?
The guy last year I thought was the best quarterback in all college football before Mendoza really kind of put his stamp on it was John Mateer down at Oklahoma. He broke his thumb and he rushed back to play that Texas game. He just never was the same. But I thought he was the Heisman Trophy winner 2 years ago when he was at Washington State. He was the best player in all of football.
Yeah.
And so I would expect some big things out of him this year at Oklahoma. That matchup when the Red River rivalry game is played between Arch and him, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And so, yeah, he's the guy that I don't think a lot of people are talking about.
Okay.
Kind of lost some momentum last year because of the injury and didn't finish that well. He's a guy that I think could really make some waves this year, kind of be that guy that people know about. Mendoza,
Yeah.
they knew about him, but then to go out and play the way they did,
Right.
I think he's the type of guy that could be that guy. Oregon's going to be good. I think Texas is going to be good. Are they going to be good enough to win a national championship or be that kind of breakaway player that Fernando Mendoza was this year? I'm going to put that on John Mateer this year as a guy that will kind of come from the dark a little bit to surprise some people.
Last thing. Are the Raiders doing the right thing if they start Kirk Cousins in the beginning of the year before going to Mendoza?
I mean, I always think that's the best case scenario.
Okay.
I would love to have. There was an option to bring in Warren Moon in my rookie year. He had played for Kevin Gilbride in Houston, and about bringing a veteran in. I don't know if my fragile mind at the time would have been able to take being mentored. I wanted to win the job, right? I wanted to be the starter the first day of camp. So it's always fascinating, and I'm sure Fernando wants that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if an understanding of what it takes to be a pro quarterback in this league, the more education and more information you have, the better chance you're gonna be. And what better than to have an owner there that did exactly that and sat behind a guy by the name of Drew Bledsoe and learned how it was done. And so Kirk Cousins is definitely a guy that has thrown many touchdowns and many interceptions and had huge games and had bad games. And he's a guy that can help lead the way. Because listen, this Raiders team, there's a reason why they were picking number 1 overall, right? They're not good.
Yeah.
They're playing in a division that is absolutely loaded. Right there's an option of 6 losses with the teams that they're in with those teams. So it's an important factor that they get off to a good start, I think. Because listen, if they don't, there's not going to be anything holding back the idea of putting Mendoza out there to get some reps and anything moving forward with any kind of optimism is going to be beneficial. But you start them early and they lose, that's a different scenario altogether.
Ryan, so glad you're doing well. Continue great work and great life for you and your family. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll talk to you again soon. And congratulations on the new gig as the lead college football analyst.
See you.
Yeah, you too.
Good to see you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Ryan. Ryan Leaf, great chatting with him. That's going to do it for this episode of The Bullpen, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Thanks to the guys, Levi and Alex, for producing today. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in The Bullpen with Adam the Bull. See you, everybody.